call this meeting to order. If I may.
That's emergency case.
This is Tuesday, 7 p.m., April 12th. Thank you for all for coming tonight. We will start with the call to order and the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would all stand, please. Excuse me, we need to roll call first. Sorry.
I'm Commissioner Bond.
Present.
Commissioner Hanna.
Here.
Commissioner Hausberg asked to be excused. Vice Mayor McCall.
Here.
Mayor Kennedy.
Thank you. Stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. We are going to start with our presentation. Panelists, Police Department, the Sheriff, if you'd like to come forward. Good evening. I always like to tell everyone that the Sheriff comes in about 15 minutes before the meeting, and if anyone would like to talk privately to the Sheriff, you may do so at that time.
Good evening. I assume each of you has a copy of the report that I have with me for the month of February. Okay. For the first page, for the property and person crimes, in the month of February, there was 13 reports taken. 5 were assaults, 2 were burglary, and 6 were larceny. Do you have any questions about anything on the first page of the report?
Do any of the commissioners have any comments or questions for the Sheriff? Hearing none.
Okay. For the second page, for the arrests, there are 9 arrests with a total of 10 different charges for the month of February. 1 was felony, 4 were misdemeanor crimes, 1 was a warrant, and 4 were traffic misdemeanor crimes. For the third page, it's a breakdown of pretty much every single call for service where a report number was pulled by deputies assigned to the city of Indian Rocks Beach. There were 838 events that were taken during the month of February. The last page shows traffic crashes and citations. There were 7 crashes in the city last month, or in the month of February, I'm sorry. There was also a total of 291 citations and warnings issued in the city of Indian Rocks Beach as well.
Thank you. Any questions for the Sheriff? Hearing none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next report is from Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue, our Chief, Jeff Davidson, and he's going to do a presentation.
Good evening. Congratulations, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for having us here tonight and allowing us to spend some time with you. I'm Jeffrey Davidson, Fire Chief, Pinellas Suncoast Fire Rescue District, proudly serving Indian Rocks Beach. I came here tonight, I wanted to recognize some of the things that our firefighters have recently done in our Indian Rocks Beach community. And before I continue, I want to ask them to all come up so you can all see them.
Yay! For coming tonight. Very nice. They're trying to find us. Awesome.
There's a good-looking group of people right there. So I want to recognize some of the things that our firefighters have recently done in our Indian Rocks Beach community. And these men and women, they've already questioned me, Chief, why are we being recognized? This is our job. This is what we do every day. You know, we don't need any recognition. And they kind of have a hard time taking thanks. But as their fire chief, I want to make sure that everything that they do and every day that they serve does not go unnoticed, because what they do is special, especially in this community. And at times things can be overlooked. But these men and women, they never hesitate to come running to save people in all kinds of emergency situations, and that's why we're here today, is to show our appreciation to them. They handle over 4,000 emergency calls a year, from anything from an EMS call to structure fires to any emergency that you might possibly be having when you call 911. When they don't know who to send, they always send the fire department. So there's a couple incidents that happened here in March that I wanted to bring light to. One was an incident that happened on March 6th, and that was, everybody knows about the incident we had where there was the vehicle that was stolen that drove through the community and wreaked havoc. And we want to commend the Sheriff's Office for their work that day. Thank you very much. And we can't do our jobs as well without the help of the Sheriff's Office. But during that day, it was a pretty hectic day, and just in a few hours time frame, some of the things that happened, there was multiple vehicle accidents. There was one car fire, there was a vehicle extrication, and that's, these men and women are trained to use specialty equipment to remove the car from you. So we don't remove you out of the car, we take the car out of you. And that requires some heavy equipment, and in that call they actually did pretty intensive, what you call a side out, where they took out both doors on one side where the car was hit and cut the B-post and opens up the entire car, and that allows us to get you out and maintain your cervical spine and get you on the backboard and transport you to the hospital as safely as possible. That takes quite a bit of training and quite some time. They also had a cardiac arrest at the same time and a difficulty breathing call. So all those things are going on here. It was wreaked havoc on the community, and along with the Sheriff's Office, these men and women, they say that's just what they do. They know that's the day that they're going to have. On that call, not everybody could be here, but there are a couple men and women that are here today that were on that call, and Lieutenant Charlie Morris could not be here, and Lieutenant Bodine couldn't be here. But we had Lieutenant Matt Tomalonis was there. You can raise your hand there. Firefighter Lawson and Firefighter Emery, and Lieutenant Livernoy, and Patrick Schwab, and then John Weber, our Marine, John Weber. I'm very proud of him. And then there was another incident on March 10th, and this one I'm very, very proud of. I'm proud of everything these men and women do, but I'm proud of everything. So, it was March 10th, it was the daytime, and we got a report of a structure fire, 700 Gulf Boulevard, Indian Rocks Beach. And it was the middle of the day, and Lieutenant Grantham, right there, he was the officer on truck 28, and Mike Granger was driving that big truck, right? And they got on scene and realized that they had a 3-story beachfront condo that had smoke and flames showing from the backside. And they were there by themselves. They got on scene in 2 minutes and 37 seconds. And they had their firefighter with them. They did a size up. They backed the truck down. They decided that was the best way to gain access to the unit that had active smoke and flames showing. They laddered the building. They pulled hose lines. They got up there. They forced the door. They did a search for occupants. And we strive on a high-rise fire, mid-rise fire. We strive to get water in the fire within 10 minutes. There's a lot of work that has to be done to accomplish that, right? And these men and women on that scene had water on the fire within 5 minutes and 46 seconds, and that's unbelievable. So. Thankfully, nobody was injured in the call, and the firefighters, as they were searching the other apartments for smoke that goes over there, make sure nobody was in there, they did rescue 2 dogs that were in there, and that kind of made of a big community came together, because what had happened was we had one of our firefighters, well, first there was Jeffrey Piles, this big handsome guy here, and he was holding this one husky, and the husky was just kind of chilling out, right? And the other dog, Wendy, she was a nervous wreck, and Finkhausen was holding her. So I feel like I have to turn around to see you guys, I'm sorry. So Finkhausen was holding her, and she was a nervous wreck, and Wendy went to the bathroom in his hands. And he actually, had a lot of work left to be done, and he didn't know what to do, so he was trying to pass Wendy off to Doug Higley over there. And Wendy hit the ground and took off running, and that was it. I mean, she zigzagged through a bunch of people. There was no stopping her. But after everybody got done, we were out there. Deputy Chief John Morlight was out there driving around, the crews were driving around trying to help Wendy, and I thought it was really, really cool, because after hours I went out there, and every person that I stopped, I was, excuse me, as I'm driving, excuse me, and they're like, yep, we're looking for Wendy too. And I thought that was really cool that the community came together like that. So we tried to help out, And when we found out that Wendy had been rescued, these men and women called me and said, "Chief, is it okay with you if we bring some dog treats over to Wendy?" And they did. They went out to the store and they spent their own money and they bought some dog treats and wrote her a card and brought it over there. And we're happy that she was home and we're happy that the homeowners were there. But those are the kind of things that you're going to get from Pinellas Suncoast Fire Rescue District. So I want to thank these men and women for the things that they do every day. I want to thank their significant others and wives because couldn't do this job without them. And I would like to introduce everybody. This is Deputy Chief. Now, granted, there are 4 people in our department that look exactly like, 2 and 2. So I always get them mixed up. And so if I stutter, just say your name. This is Deputy Chief John Morley. So John is in charge of all these people on a day-to-day basis, and they're broken down into 3 shifts. And there's always somebody who's in charge of the shift. And on this shift is District Chief Todd Best. So he was on that structure fire that day, total professional, ran the call well. Lieutenant Dave Livernoitz, who has been here for 24 years. Thank you for your service. Right? And Lieutenant Matt Tomalonis, right? John Weber, Mike Granger. That part I was joking around. Todd Grantham, all right. You got Rick Rubel, Doug Higley, Jeff Piles, Mary Miller, active United States Army today, active. Thank you. Josh Coley, and I do this every time.
Travis Garman.
And that's Travis Garman. So, these are your men and women, these are your firefighters, your paramedics. Thank you again for allowing us to take up your time today, and we'll be seeing you out in the community. Thank you.
Take a couple pictures. Jeff, do you want to take a picture with them? Absolutely. Sure.
That's all right, we can all say it.
There we go. Oh, you see him again on the other end?
I'll just feel it. We good? We good? We got enough?
Yes, I just, for balance's sake, I can see everybody.
You guys ready? Yes. All right, over here. Ready? Good. Perfect.
Me, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. All right, thank you.
Nice to see you again, bud. Good fire.
Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you to do the annual comprehensive report.
Sure. Good evening. How you doing?
Yes. 1 second until everybody.
Sure.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming in. Okay, Dave, Dan, if you want to go on.
Sure. Tonight we have on the agenda the annual audit presentation, and Jeff Wolf is here from our audit firm, MSL, and I'm going to just let him go through the presentation, and he's got a spot for questions if there are any at the end.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, good evening, good to see everybody. Say it'll be tough to follow up that presentation, but I'll do my best. First, I want to thank you for allowing us to continue to serve as your external auditor. So with that, I'll get right into it. We're required to communicate 2 times during the audit. The first being at the end just to go over our plan, which we do through a letter, and then at the end to go over our final communications that are required by standards. And that really covers us to explain our responsibility as your auditor, and that really is to perform an audit in accordance with applicable standards, and then render opinion on those financial statements. Management responsible for setting internal controls to provide reasonable assurance those financial statements are correct, and also really to take responsibility for the financial statements. It's the city's, it's the management's financial statements, not the auditor's. That's always an important piece. We do review internal controls and compliance, but it's really just to help us plan our audit. Meaning, we review payroll, and if we see issues, we'll adjust our audit procedures to address those. But we don't do enough to actually render opinion on the internal controls. Happy to report there's no difficulties at all encountered during the audit. No unusual accounting conventions or accounting standards were used. No disagreement with management, and there were no audit adjustments. And I think that's always important to point out, because that means, the trial balance that we were provided was what was used at the end to prepare the financial statement. So that kind of shows that, the numbers that are being generated, you can rely on those when you get them, because our audit didn't change based on our procedures, that, that information is accurate when it's presented to you. And lastly, we completed our audit in accordance with the schedule that was presented to you. On the reports, and again, I apologize that this is repetitive. It's going to be kind of similar. It's all good news, which is always good to have, but it is repetitive. So our first report is our independent auditor's report. That is a report on whether the financial statements are materially correct. That report was an unmodified opinion. That is the highest level of assurance you can receive that those financial statements are materially correct. So that's what we call a clean opinion. That is the best you can get. Next is our report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance. This is a report where, as I said, we're not issuing an audit opinion, but if we did notice a material weakness or a significant deficiency in internal control, we would report it in this letter, but as you can see, there was no findings or issues noted in this report. The next report is our independence accountant report, and that really just relates to Florida statute compliance with investments. Again, no findings or issues noted in that report. And lastly is the Auditor General Required Management Letter. This letter requires us to report on financial condition, and if there was anything else that was deemed significant to communicate to governance, would also could be contained in this report. And again, no findings or no issues noted in this report. So overall, very clean audit. On some real quick, just high-level financial analysis. This is the citywide analysis, meaning if this was like a business, long-term assets, long-term liabilities would be recorded. These are the numbers. Really, the key point on these numbers is your unrestricted net position as a part of total expenditures and governmental activities, 78%. That's a very strong number. Just means that you have the ability to pay for your upcoming expenditures and liabilities using unrestricted funds. So that's really the key number to point out, and then 33% on business type activities. Next is your general fund, which is your main operating fund. This is kind of a comparison from current year to prior year. As you can see, pretty consistent overall from the prior year. And again, the key numbers, the highlight here is your assigned and unassigned fund balance as a part of total expenditures. Last year was a very strong 90.9, and again, it was a very strong 105.1. Again, just shows the ability that the city has to meet ongoing needs or any unexpected things that could potentially arise. This is kind of just a comparison of your general fund budget. As you can see, you ended up having 0.3 million higher in revenues compared to your budget, and then for expenditures, you were 0.1 under expenditures. So overall, you had a favorable change in fund balance compared to budget of 0.4 million. That's all I really plan on covering, but if there's anything more deeper dive in the financial statements or the audit process, I'd be more than happy to answer those questions. But overall, it's a very strong year again, and a very clean audit and something that the city should be proud of.
Does anyone have any questions for Jeff tonight? Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for coming again, year after year.
Yep, it's always good to be
Appreciate
here.
you very, very much. Dan, do you want to add anything?
I just like to make sure, on behalf of myself, I thank the commission, the city manager, the department heads and staff for all their support and assistance, throughout the year to prepare and complete this process. I just want to make sure I get that on the record.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to go to public comment now. I'm going to open it. Any member of the audience that may come forward, give their name and address, and state any comment or concern that they may have regarding any matter over which the City Commission has control, excluding agenda items. All statements made to the City Commission shall be made to the City Commission as a whole, not directed to an individual City Commission member, and no personal or slanderous remarks shall be permitted. No speaker shall be interrupted, and no debate shall take place between the speaker and the City Commission. And with that, if anyone would like to come forward at this time, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening and congratulations again to the newly installed mayor and commissioners. My name is Keith Meyer. I am one of your circuit judges, and I just came tonight to introduce myself to some of you folks that might not have met me in court or anywhere else. But maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. But anyway, I reside in the town of Bel Air. If you need my exact street address, I'll give it to you off the record, because sometimes it's not a good idea for judges to be passing that information out. Well, I've been on the bench the last 12 years. I've been in the criminal bench, the family law bench, and the civil bench. I get more nervous at things like this than I do picking 100 jurors, so you'll have to bear with me. I'm running for re-election, and it's a time for me to get back out on the trail and speak to the roughly 1.2 million registered voters that have a say in who their next circuit judge is going to be. So it's everybody in Pasco County, everybody in Pinellas County, and I figured for public comment this would be an item that would be of interest to the city of Indian Rocks Beach. I actually went to elementary school in Indian Rocks Beach, a little small school back at the day. It was called Cottingham. I don't know if it's still around, but I didn't do so well at South Ward in first grade, so my parents yanked me out of there because I wasn't paying attention. I got to finish up my elementary school days and get my act together here at Indian Rocks Beach. I just wanted to introduce myself to everyone. It's very hard when you're running for judge because it's a nonpartisan race and you don't get to talk about politics, and that's what everybody wants to talk about. But I can talk about my credentials and my experience. If you want to know anything about me, I'm an open book. Give me a call, 727-501-4654. You can go to the campaign website, which is votekeithmeyer.com. Find us on Facebook, and I will return your call. I will return your email. You can send me an email at keith@votekeithmeyer.com. I'm going to try to stick around for the meeting, but it is my birthday, and thank you. And my wife and daughters have told me they would like to see me this evening, even though I am in campaign mode. So I will hang out for a bit, and if you have any questions for me, please give me a holler. And it's very nice to be here. And again, I really appreciated the ceremony. It was lovely. Thank you.
Thanks.
No one can
Anyone
sit
else
with me in
who
the
would like
front row.
to come up at this time? Hey, Mayor.
R.B. Johnson, 1206 Beach Trail. Congratulations to Cookie, Joe, and Jude. The reason I'm up here is that I was informed recently that I may have given the misimpression at the last commission meeting that I was somehow in favor of adding paid parking to different areas in the city that don't have paid parking like right now, like on the accesses or perhaps the on-street parking down in the Narrows Business District, and that was not what I was advocating at the last meeting. I was talking about the fact that we have parking issues here in Indian Rocks Beach, largely because we're so gracious and we have lots of parking, mostly free parking on our accesses, but also on our side streets and other places, for instance, down in the Narrows Business District on the streets and at some of our parks and whatnot. But I'm not advocating, and I really never have advocated for paid parking on our accesses. I'm perfectly happy, have always been happy that we have free parking on our accesses and free parking on this down street parking down in the Narrows Business District. But what I was saying was that because we have so much parking, whether it's free or not, people are going to come to this beach in order to go to the beach itself and to set up on the beach. Clearwater Beach has lots of parking. Most of it's paid parking. That doesn't deter people, it brings people in. That's why the causeway, the Clearwater Causeway and Bridge, and also the Bel Air Causeway and Bridge is loaded with people on weekends. So what I was simply trying to address was mainly the question that was coming up about the Narrows Business District and the fact that our on-street parking down there that was put in place a number of years ago and has been added to over the years has always been intended for use by the businesses and the restaurants down in that area and by the employees down there. But in fact, over the last X number of years, half dozen years or more, it's now primarily being used by people who go down there and head for the beach itself. They unload their stuff and they go to the beach. So they're filling up the spaces that we intended to have for use of the businesses and the restaurants and whatnot down there. And one of the things that I brought up as a possible solution is something that's being done down at St. Pete Beach. They've already done it in Paso Grill. They're talking about doing it in Quarry Avenue, and that's simply putting a time limit on those on-street parking places. Quarry Avenue has a very similar situation to the one we have in our business district, where they have on-street parking that's been free for since time immemorial, but in the last few years, people have been finding those spaces, parking there, and going to the beach, and basically taking it away from the use of people who would be, say, going to those businesses. And they're talking about now, if they haven't already done it, putting in time limits there where they have sensors. For instance, I think is one way of doing it, put sensors in the parking spaces, and that would let authorities know how long people are there. So if you put a time limit on these spaces, that's one good way of dissuading people from using those to go and hang out on the beach, because nobody wants to have to come back and move their car or whatnot if they're spending half a day or a full day at the beach. So that's what I was addressing. I wasn't advocating for paid parking on our accesses or down there. I was just trying to come up with another solution. Thank you.
For clearing that up. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward at this time?
Hello,
Hi.
Michelle Hargett, 1900 First Street. Congratulations to you all. You have to forgive me, I get kind of nervous talking in public. Mayor Cookie tends to push me past my limits.
You gotta speak into the mic.
Right now, a little bit. It just helps with the minutes.
I'm Michelle. This is my son Zachary. He's the youngest of 6 children. My husband Scotty and our oldest son Trevor. A couple years ago, Mayor Cookie and I had discussed how Indian Rocks Beach could use some autism awareness. And I just want to share a little bit of Zachary's story and then get into the proclamation. This is our son Zachary. He was diagnosed with autism on March 31st, 2015. We actually found out by mistake on March 19, 2015, when the doctor, not thinking, wrote it on a prescription that I needed for one of his many therapy evaluations. I accidentally left the prescription at home. I remember laughing and apologizing to them for being so absent-minded, and I walked out of the office still laughing. As I waited for the elevator, I happened to look down, and there it was, diagnosis autism. Wait, what? I instantly, my heart sank and I began to cry. I was shaking and so scared for what this meant for my precious baby boy and his future. I sat through the evaluation and did not hear one word they said. I headed out straight to Scotty because anybody that knows us knows he's my rock, and once he hugs me, it's all going to make perfect sense. That's not what happened. We actually argued because we were both so confused and scared, which is completely normal. Eventually, we were back to ourselves, still confused, still scared, and even in denial. That night, we just hugged our little guy tighter and tried making sense of it all. By the time our official diagnosis appointment came, I was accepting this new diagnosis, but Scotty was still in denial. There are so many signs that we overlooked, because Zachary was the baby of 6. These things were normal to us. We just overlooked them. It was all just stuff that made our little Zacho so unique. Since the diagnosis, we have tried all the therapies, but decided school and the therapy available there for him was the best for him. He goes to Anona Elementary, and they have great resources for him. They have made him grow. We're very appreciative of them. We've heard all the typical stuff. He doesn't look autistic. Oh, I'm sorry. It's probably a misdiagnosis. The list goes on and on. The people that say these things have not seen how scared he is when the wind is blowing, what lightning and thunder can do to him, how he knows no fear, or how a tight hug or holding our toes will comfort him. Sometimes he wants to be alone, and sometimes he enjoys playing with someone else. He's brilliant, and he has a memory that'll blow your mind. Every day this precious boy teaches us something, and every day he amazes us more. For the record, Scotty was still in denial until he watched the first episode of The A Word. If you've never seen that, it's very amazing. Autism is not a life-threatening diagnosis, but it is scary. We love you, Zachary, and we will fight for you always, not just April. April is Autism Awareness Month, and in 2020, Mayor Kennedy was going to present us with this proclamation, but COVID happened. And as we all know, a lot of stuff changed when that happened. And she thought that it was important that we brought awareness to Indian Rocks Beach because Zachary was born and raised in Indian Rocks Beach. He knows no other home. It was Easter time, and Cookie asked him if he was going to the Easter egg hunt, and he said no. And she said, why? He said, because I can't. It scares me. There's too many people. So she and I decided that maybe we could advocate and start looking for some sensory-friendly Easter egg hunts, not just for autism, but for other handicapped children in the community. With that said, I'll stop because he's uncomfortable now.
So we are presenting you with this. You've already had it for 2 years, but we were in COVID, so we didn't get to do everything. But we were the only city out of 24 that had Autism Month in April. So I know that there's a few more now, but there still isn't that many. And maybe when the Christmas parade, Zachary always rides with me because Luke's too old now and he doesn't do that. So that's Zachary ride with me in the parades. So in the picture, and so everybody knows, tell Indian Rocks Beach does Autism Month. And this is the family, just so you know. Okay. All right. Thank you. And thank you for all
the Also, I'm sorry, we have blue light bulbs and some autism stuff to the right here because it is lighted up blue for Autism Month, and I bought them in 2020 and didn't get to give them. So feel free to take a blue light.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else who'd like to come up tonight? Public comments, please come forward. You have 3 minutes. Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public comment. Looking for your report from our city attorney.
Thank you, Commission. We, in the past month, have been working with your city manager. We are actively working towards a revision of your sign code and have gone through a few drafts, and you should be seeing something by the summer term for your consideration. As you all know, the legislature session ended just in the last few weeks. Thankfully, there were some victories. There was no changes, no remarkable changes to the short-term rental laws, and so we will forge ahead with the regulations we have here. Those have not been invalidated, thankfully, though there were attempts to do so. As well, I previously focused on 2 main bills of particular attention, Senate Bill 280 and Senate Bill 620. Senate Bill 280 was the bill that would have required us to make a series of business impact analyses in order to adopt an ordinance, any ordinance in this community or any community in the state of Florida. Thankfully, that ultimately failed, so that we do not have that as a primary concern this session. But if we've learned anything from the last several legislative sessions, this is a good indicator of things to come. It had a lot of, it gained a lot of steam, though it may have fizzled out. That does not mean we won't see some iteration of this again in the next term. The other bill was Senate Bill 620. Senate Bill 620 was the one that allowed businesses to make claims based on claimed losses to their gross or net profits resulting from the passage or enactment of an ordinance in your community. It remains to be seen, as with any new statute, how this will change the landscape, but it will change the landscape. Most certainly, when you add a new civil cause of action and one premised around government regulation, it changes things. And this is somewhat a cultural outgrowth of what we saw come out of COVID and the various regulations that were imposed on businesses claiming that they were, being prohibitively harmed by government's attempt to adapt. And so we will see how that works out. Otherwise, if you have continuing interest in any particular bills or legislation, I'm happy to brief those for you offline. And always remember, you have the Florida League of Cities as a tremendous resource and their legislative updates that they provide. There's some that I think are already online for your consumption if you so desire. Otherwise, I don't have anything that I need to report right now, but I'm happy to answer any questions should you have any.
Any questions for Mr. Morrow?
Thank you.
Hearing none, Vice Mayor McCall, do you have any comments tonight?
I'm just honored to start my second term, and I'm really looking forward to kind of fun and exciting next 2 years.
All right.
We'll do it again.
Commissioner Bond, as in James Bond?
I'll second that.
Well, very glad to have you up here with us. Awesome.
Thank you, likewise.
Your whole family was here, except your daughter was.
Yeah, she's flying in tonight.
She's flying in tonight, good. Commissioner Hanna?
Congratulations to the three of you. Jude, welcome. We look forward to some good things and good insight from you. I know your time on the Planning and Zoning Board was very helpful up here to give us some additional insight on the things. And again, congratulations.
Okay. I'm going to wish everybody a happy Easter tonight. And with that, we will move along to our additions and deletions. We do not have any tonight. And so we will go to the consent agenda.
There are 4 items on the consent agenda, Madam Mayor. Item A is approval of the March 8, 2022 regular City Commission meeting minutes. Item B is to receive and file the Indian Rocks Beach Annual Progress Report on Flood Mitigation Projects in Pinellas County's local mitigation strategy. Item C is approving of the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget calendar. And item D is to accept and file the annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year ended September 30, 2021, previously introduced by Finance Director Carpenter. These are the 4 items on the consent agenda, Madam Mayor.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve consent agenda.
And is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Stands approved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We'll move on to 6A, public hearings. Our BOA case number 2022-05, 799 East Gulf Boulevard. And with that, Penny, would you like, you want to read first?
Yes, Madam Mayor. The first hearing before you is Board of Adjustment case number 2022-05 for 799 East Gulf Boulevard. This is considering a variance request to section 110-344 sub 5 of the Code of Ordinances to encroach 5 feet into the north 8-foot side yard setback, resulting in a north side yard setback of 3 feet for the installation of a swimming pool on the property located at 799 East Gulf Boulevard, Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, and legally described as a portion of Lot 25, La Hacienda replat, according to the plat thereof, recorded in Plat Book 39, pages 1 and 2, Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, formerly La Hacienda subdivision, recorded in Plat Book 36, pages 73 and 74, parcel 12-30-14-47412-000-025. Before we begin, this is a quasi-judicial hearing, not a legislative hearing. As you well know, in a quasi-judicial hearing, you are not making the law, but rather applying the law to the established law, to the facts and evidence presented before you, considering the competent and substantial evidence that will be offered this evening. Before we begin this quasi-judicial hearing, I must first ask if any member of this body has had any ex parte communications with the applicant or their agent. That is, have you communicated with the applicant or their agent about the application before you here this evening?
No.
All having responded in the negative, has any member of this body conducted a site visit for the limited purpose of evaluating the application before you? This is not to say if you've driven by it and you're aware of its existence, but went there for the specific purpose of evaluating this application.
No.
No.
All having responded in the negative, With that, will anybody who intends to offer any testimonial evidence, if you plan to speak tonight on this matter, including city staff, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, and for your benefit, sir, the way this process will work, Hetty will have an opportunity as the city's planner to present the staff report. If you have any questions of her, you'll have an opportunity to ask them. Then you will have your opportunity to present. The commission will then open it to other persons who wish to speak. Hetty will get a final word, you will get a final word. They will close the public hearing and then render their decision. So with that, Hetty, I turn it over to you.
As you recall, most of you, except for you, because you weren't here, but we heard this case 2 months ago. We went back to the Board of Adjustment for the correct, because they changed the side setback. So the north side is 7 feet, the south side is 3 feet. Previously, the north side was not compliant with our setback. So now the north side is compliant and not the south side. And again, here's the property location. And you see there's those like 2 lots on those townhouses it was a duplex that was split into 2 lots. They did that in 2004, and it's said and done, but it's, right now it makes them non-conforming. So, this is the pool that they want to put in. It's 7 feet on the north side and 3 feet on the south side. Previously, it was like 4 feet on the north side and 4 feet on the south side, and so on the north side they're compliant, south side they're not. We do have a letter from the adjacent neighbor in the townhome, in the duplex, that is agreeable. There's a letter of objection from the gentleman 2 doors down on this. And just a little idea of what the pool layout would be. So, with that, are there any questions?
Hetty, what was the vote for the BOA?
They voted to deny it, and the staff recommended to deny it because we didn't feel there was a hardship on it.
Okay. Any questions for Hetty at this time? With that, the applicant would like to come forward and state your name.
Wes Ripley.
Hold the mic up so you don't have to.
Okay. Thanks. All right. I'm actually here representing the owners of the property, and the reason that we're asking for a variance is, unbeknownst to them, when they purchased the property, in the I guess there were HOA docs between the 2 properties, said that anything, including a fence or a pool, could be built up to the shared party wall line. So that was the intention, was putting in a swimming pool and going up to the shared wall. I mean, obviously we're back a few feet just so we have room to walk around the pool, but they, I guess moving it in, it would, because the lot is so small, without going to the edge of the property, it confines us. We're trying to make as much usable swim space as we can in that pool.
Does anyone have any questions for the applicant at this time? Hetty, do you want?
Are you familiar with what the hardship actually is here?
The hardship is not being able to use the full extent of the property. I mean, normally with a pool, you'd be able to go to the edge of your home. I mean, as your setback. Whereas this one, the setback is inside the edge of the property by 8 feet.
Hetty, as far as their hardship, where do we go with that hardship, the way that the applicant has stated? How do we still don't agree because that's not the kind of hardship that we look for in a property?
I'll field that question actually. That question is your question was how do we go with that? And I would say that the we needs to be defined there. The city in reviewing the application did not find one, the city staff. However, as this commission and the quasi-judicial adjudicator of the matter, that is for you to conclude independently based on the testimony you've heard from the applicant and the testimony you've heard from the city. You're not bound by what this gentleman has stated, and you're not bound by what Hetty stated. You take that evidence, and the 4 of you present here tonight make your own decision as to whether or not that has been established.
Hetty, do you want to add anything until I go out into the public comment?
I don't have anything else.
All right. Alec, I'm going to have you sit and,
Okay.
and then we'll go out to the public comment, and then I'll have you come back up.
Okay.
I'm going to open public comment. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this agenda item at this time? Hearing none, I'll close the public comment. Is there anything else that you would like to say at this time? Okay. Eddie, anything else for you? Okay, discussion with the commission, and I'm looking for some kind of a motion.
I just had one quick question. I saw in the Board of Adjustment notes something about us not making a non-conforming property more non-conforming. Is there anything in our, to your knowledge?
So the question was about not increasing a nonconformity within a nonconforming property. That references an issue that is not at issue in the application specifically as it relates to how the property was subdivided and otherwise. That is a long established issue that predates anybody who is working here on this and property recording records, and so that nonconformity is not specifically an issue in this context as I understand it.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else, any questions?
I have just a small question. From a design perspective, if the goal is to maximize, you said swimming space, putting the jacuzzi right in the middle seems to me like that would be sort of counter that. Like, would a redesign of this pool maybe get you guys where you need to be better?
Come up.
If you notice the 3 blue lines that come down from the top,
Yeah.
those are the dead men. And what I had initially was the spa was on the side, the 7-foot side, and that was when we had the encroachment onto the other setback. Right now, the way it's designed is that it's actually sandwiched between the 2 dead men, and the sun shelf is actually above the dead men. And I've got engineering letters stating that that's approved, that won't affect the seawall integrity. But we're basically working within those dead men was a design challenge.
Anything else, Phil? You know, one of the problems with this application and that they came back, and I know that they fixed the one side, but the fact that the Board of Adjustments has unanimously voted against it, and also it has been denied from the city. You know, I mean, we take our boards very seriously. They work very hard to come up with the decisions that they make. And I find it difficult to pass this after those 2 items. We had a lengthy discussion about this at the meeting previously, when this came up the first time, and we asked them to go back and do some configuring, which they did do on one side. Hey, was there any comment about the other side that could have been different in the discussions, like with you or with the applicant?
Not really. I think this is what we had decided before the last meeting, you know, that since but not much more than, except that their neighbor signed off on that side, and you're not, you know, impeding on the neighbor to the north.
Looking for some motion?
I'll motion to deny VOA case number 2002 or 2022-05.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any comments on the motion?
Yeah, just basically, like I said, hardships, kind of a tough thing. you know, when you buy a property, do your research. Basically, if you're, yeah, I mean, I know it's a unique property. However, I mean, if it could be designed within the limits, then I would say go for that.
Phil, anything?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner McCall. It's, we've had many folks that come to us for various things. We had one lady, I mentioned this some years ago, that came to us and had just bought a brand new boat, but the boat wouldn't fit on by the dock, and so she had to have a variance. What was the hardship? Well, I bought this boat. No good. It didn't work out, and we had to deny it. Joe said something that it's an imperative. When anybody does anything, they've got to go before they sign that final line on purchasing the property. And whatever they want to do, they need to go and find out from the city or the governing body what is allowed and what is not. To see, I agree also that if this could be redesigned to fit more within the property, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But the ordinances are there for a reason. So unfortunately, I can't support it.
Commissioner Bond, do you have any questions or want to add anything? You're good? Okay, Dee? Okay. Deanne, do you want to call?
Before we call the roll, and pardon me, Madam Mayor, the motion on the floor is to deny the relief requested. We have moved in the negative, and when we do so, I'd like to make a point to advise you that when you are voting aye or in favor of or yes on the motion on the floor, you are voting to deny. So a yes is to deny, a no is not inclined to deny. And so with that, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Bond,
Yes.
Commissioner Hannah,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCall,
Yes.
Mayor Commissioner Kennedy.
Yes.
By your vote of 4-0, you have voted to deny the relief requested, and an order shall issue from the city to that effect. And that concludes the hearing on Board of Adjustment case number 22-05. The next hearing on the agenda is ABT case number 16-2022. This is for 125 Gulf Boulevard, considering a 4COP-SFS alcoholic beverage use designation request, beer, wine, liquor, by the drink for consumption on premises or in a sealed container meeting the requirements of statute 561-20-sub 2, sub A, sub 4, Florida statutes for consumption on premises for JD's Restaurant and Lounge located at 125 Gulf Boulevard, Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, and legally described as Indian Rocks Beach Blocks 4, Lot 1, 2, and 3, parcel number 12-30-14-42858-004-0010. Has any member of this body had any ex parte communications with the applicant as to this application?
No.
All having responded in the negative, this not being a structural concern, we need not ask about site visits. With that, will anybody who intends to offer any testimony before this body concerning this application stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. With that, Madam Clerk.
This is an application for a 4COP SFS, which is beer, wine, and liquor for consumption on the premises or in a sealed container, meeting the requirements of Florida statutes. This is JD's Restaurant and Lounge located at 125 Gulf Boulevard. It was previously owned by the Downing family, and the Loader family, AKA Crappy Bills, they now own the restaurant. And everything came back okay from the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. The planning consultant has also reviewed the application and has found that it complies with Chapter 6, the alcoholic beverage, and Chapter 110 zoning. And the only request the city staff has is if you do pass the alcoholic beverage license, that you do put a condition on the application being repeated or intermediate nuisance activity and/or unlawful noise levels originating from the establishment of the parking area may result in the revocation of the alcoholic beverage designation. And that's mostly what it is. It's just a change of ownership of JD's.
Thank you, Deanne. With that, do any of the commissioners have any questions for Deanne before I bring up the applicant. So, yes.
Is that particular request normal?
Yes, it is.
With that, Matt, would you like to come forward?
Good evening. Matt Loder, 401 Gulf Boulevard, Indian Rocks Beach, and 125 Gulf Boulevard at Indian Rocks Beach. The property has been with the Downings, the designation for 37 years. We've had the license within the city for 39 years without any incident. We just want to continue what we've had, and that's all we're doing. I would like to go ahead and make a point of sharing with everyone that this evening is my 40th wedding anniversary to my lovely bride, Maria. She's been very good for me, and I appreciate her very much. I want that on the record. But honestly, that's really all I have to say about it.
Does anyone have any questions for Matt at this time? No. Matt, I'm going to have you just take a seat, and we're going to open up the public comment, and then if anyone would like to come forward at this time, make any comments on this agenda item.
I just have a question, actually. I have a question. When you say sealed, Laura Mears O'Donoghue, 3375 21st Place. I have a question. When you say sealed container, does that mean that when people buy alcohol, they can take it in a sealed container and leave the premises? Or does that just mean you can have a sealed container outside the building in the patio area? And my question would be, if it's a sealed container, they can just leave and go wherever they want to, and does that increase the risk of DUIs or issues that way? I mean, I just didn't understand what you meant by sealed container, so I guess I'm asking for clarification.
We'll have Hetty clarify it after we're finished with the other public comments. And we also, you didn't say what city that is that you live in.
Largo, Florida.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone else at this time who'd like to speak? Hearing none, we'll close the public comment. Do you have any comments that you want to make, Matt?
Yeah.
Rebuttal?
Yeah, the processes will be the same, and the question of whether it's sealed or unsealed container, we have to abide by the state's rules, and we do that, and so it would be the same for anybody owning using an alcoholic beverage license within the city or even another city. We still have to abide by the state rules. And there's some ambivalence about that right now, because I think we can actually sell a sealed container for somebody to take off in the state of Florida. So we don't do it right now, but there's in the state, because it was enacted during the course of the COVID, that you could go ahead and be able to have a sealed container. Restaurants and bars could go ahead and sell a mixed cocktail in a sealed container to leave the premises for somebody to take home with them. But it had to be sealed. But ours is on premise, so we're not selling beers or cases of beer for customers to leave out.
Thank you, Matt. Dia, do you want to add anything to that?
I think if the city attorney has something to add.
My only addition would be to state that it is an accurate statement to say the Florida statute changed in the last few years concerning the regulation of sale of sealed alcoholic beverages. It is also accurate to say that any purveyor of alcohol would have to comply both with the local regulations and the state regulations concerning the sale of sealed alcoholic beverages. In as much as your question, ma'am, concerned the instances and increase in DUI or other potential deleterious effects of that sale, there's no evidence in the record tonight concerning that, and none of us are in a position to offer any kind of expertise or study on that at this time. And so with that, I would tender the meeting back to you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Randy. With that, is there any other discussion from the commission? And I'm looking for a motion.
I'll motion to approve ABT case number 16-2022 with provision of repeated or intermittent nuisance activity and/or unlawful noise levels originating from the establishment of the parking area may result in the revocation of the alcohol beverage designation.
Very good. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Second by Jude. Any comments from the maker or the second?
No, we've had this establishment has been in our town for many years. Obviously, the Loader Family operates here, as my senior said, for the last 39 years. They obviously know what they're doing in the hospitality business.
Comments from the second?
No.
Okay, with that, Phil, anything? Dan, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Hanna?
Yes.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCall?
Yes.
Mayor Commissioner Kennedy?
Yes, motion carries. Congratulations. We will move on to 7A, other legislative matters. This is a resolution number 2022-02. And Randy, would you like to read it?
Happily, Madam Mayor, this is City of Indian Rocks Beach Resolution number 2022-02, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, appointing, one moment, I want to make sure I'm on the right one. I think I might be on the wrong agenda item in my reading here. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, appointing a member of the City Commission to serve as Vice Mayor Commissioner and providing for an effective date. With this, you are, as the name suggests, appointing a Vice Mayor Commissioner. You can, absent a specific process, typically this is done by nomination, and you can vote on those nominations. We vote on the nominations in the order they come, so there's a nominating period and then a voting period. And so with that, is there any member of this body whom you wish to nominate as Vice Mayor?
Before you go on, though, I wanted to ask, where are we in the rotation with that being?
Well, I attached the sheet, but it's messed up.
I believe it's Denise Hotspur's turn. Is that not correct?
Yes, it looks like it would be Denise's turn.
Here then is any comments, discussion, do whatever the board
Fight for this
pleases.
Is there anybody who wishes to make any nominations for the position of Vice Mayor?
As current Vice Mayor, I would like to nominate Denise Hausberg as Vice Mayor.
Is there a second?
As a previous Vice Mayor, I'll second that.
Are there any other nominations from the floor? With that, the way we would, this is structured as a resolution. My pause is that the resolution I have in my materials isn't.
Yeah, mine, they're mixed up.
Yeah, it's just mixed up a little bit. But this is structured as a resolution, and so the way I would suggest you do this is a motion to approve the resolution with Commissioner Hausberg as the identified Vice Mayor. So if there's we need a member of the body to make a motion.
Well, Vice Mayor McCall did make a motion.
So he nominated. A nomination is distinct from the motion process. So at this point,
You need to make the
a motion to approve the resolution with the identified party as the Vice Mayor.
Okay.
I motion to approve resolution number 2022-02 as Vice Mayor Denise Hausberg.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Absent any discussion, Madam Clerk would call the roll.
All in favor?
Aye.
The resolution stands approved. The next item on the agenda is Resolution 2022-03, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, appointing a voting delegate and first and second alternate voting delegates to represent the City of Indian Rocks Beach at the Barrier Islands Governmental Council, that's the Big C meetings, and providing for an effective date. With this, there are three points in this. The previous one had Mayor Kennedy as the principal and two separate commissioners as backup. So with this, you would first, the best way to do this is work in order, who will be your principal voting delegate, who would be your first alternate, who would be your second alternate, and fill each vacancy going down the line. Don't try and do it in bulk. So with that, are there any nominations for the principal voting delegate or discussion on the matter? Madam Clerk? Okay.
I nominate principal delegate to be Mayor Kennedy.
I'll second.
Okay, there's the nomination for Mayor Kennedy. Are there any other nominations for that position? Seeing none, is it the general consensus of the body that the resolution should reflect that, and we'll approve the resolution in final form with each vacancy filled? Yes. Okay, so then we would seek a nomination then for first alternate.
Previously, it was Denise Housework, Commissioner Denise Housework.
I've done it. Go ahead, Joe.
You can, if you so desire.
I would love for you to do it.
Huh?
Yes.
Well,
let him do it.
He wants to do it.
I know, what can you nominate?
Sure, I nominate Joe McCall for the second alternate.
Are there any other nominations for the first alternate position? Seeing none would be Member McCall. Are there any nominations for the second alternate position?
Sure, you feel like getting your feet wet.
I nominate Drew Bond for second alternate for the Big C.
Are there any other nominations? Do you receive that as a hostile nomination?
I'm going to take it in the spirit in which it was.
All right, with that, the resolution would read that the City Commission hereby appoints Mayor Joanne Mostyn Kennedy as the city's voting delegate at the Big C meetings and appoints Commissioner Joe McCall as the first alternate voting delegate and Commissioner Drew Bond as the second alternate voting delegate based on your nominations. Is there a motion to approve the resolution with those positions as stipulated?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Resolutions.
No, you're fine.
Resolution stands approved unanimously. With that, Mayor, we would move on to the next item on the agenda.
Agenda item number 8, we do not have any discussion items or work session, and is there any other business to come before this board tonight? Commissioner? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. Congratulations, candidates.